Hello and welcome, my squids, to another gear review. I'm your favorite cephalopod, the prize-winning squid, a somewhat intermediate artist slash hobbyist who loves drawing webcomics, loves doing illustrations, and also sometimes does gear reviews like this one. If you've never been here before, welcome to my channel, and if you've been here before, welcome back. Today's review is going to be for XPPen Artist Pro 24 Gen 2. It's going to be the 4K model. I think everything that I say for it will apply to the 165 Hertz model, but I didn't get that one. I got the 4K model. Hey, my squids, just cutting in to interrupt myself real quick. Just so you guys know, this review was done on a tablet that I got back in December. And after 5 months, I realized that this tablet had defects, so I had to get it replaced by XPPen. However, I'm gonna leave that original footage in here so you know what the defects are. But I'll cut in and let you know what the new replacement tablet feels like. I've had it for about 2 months now. What it feels like as opposed to the defective unit. That way, if you experience this exact same issue, you can reach out to XPPen and hopefully they can get a replacement for you as well. I'll talk about the return process and their customer service process as well at the end of the video. But for now, let's get back to the video. With this, it's gonna be a somewhat extensive review because I've had this thing for about 5 months now, and there's some things that you will see during the life of owning this that you don't see in the first 30 days. There's also going to be some things that I figured out when I first got it. I kind of freaked out and had to Google some things to figure them out, and I want to go over those as well so that you don't freak out the same way that I did. And I haven't seen a lot of these things mentioned in other reviews, so I think it would be really good to let you guys know about those weird things if you've never had something like this. Some of the newer tablets and things have some features that older tablets didn't. So with all that said, let's just get into the review. I want to show you guys the unboxing. I want to show you guys what's included and also whether you're going to end up really liking this thing at the end. So let's get into the review.
Of course, we have the obligatory shot of the box itself. The artwork is done by Shan Jiang. I know I'm pronouncing that wrong. I do apologize, but the artwork is absolutely gorgeous. Once you open the box, you'll notice that it is packed very, very securely, something that I've noticed with each of XPPen's devices that I've purchased and used. Inside is the Kalman color calibration report that XPPen does for each of these. The device itself is very heavy, so I took it out and put it on my desk before showing the rest of what's inside. Each of these goodies is packed neatly in its compartment, and they are all easy to pull out. Honestly, they didn't skimp on any details with this boxing. I don't know if it's because I've had a pen display from them before, but I felt a little bit better about getting this one set up than I did the Artist 22R Pro. Oh, you'll also notice that there are 2 pen holders this time around, which we will talk about very, very shortly. A little shot of the screen. I didn't have any ASMR this time because to actually get the plastic off, I had to lay it on its face and lift it off because the plastic was connected in the back. On top, you have 2 buttons, the power button and the brightness and source buttons. Very easy to press and very much out of the way. On the back, you'll notice all of the cabling is to one side. I took a picture so it's a little easier to see, but you have inputs for the DC-in, USB-C, DisplayPort, HDMI, and headphones. You can also put the cables in the grips here, and once you put the back plate on, everything is secure and out of the way. Very, very clean setup. Now, let's get to the goodies. We have the warranty policy. The pen holder is this case that comes in the box. When you open it, you'll find both pens. The thicker one has 2 buttons on it that are programmable. It feels a little better to hold if you don't like holding thin pens. There's also an eraser on the back that you can program to actually erase. Up next is this piece for the thinner pen, where you can pop its buttons out and make the pen flush like an Apple Pencil. Very handy, very easy to change out. The thin pen honestly feels great too, but it doesn't have an eraser. That's the only downside to it. If you have an Apple Pencil, you'll definitely feel at home with a thinner pen. There's a USB dongle in here to connect the shortcut remote to your computer if you don't have Bluetooth or your Bluetooth isn't reliable for some reason. There's also nibs for both pens, including felt tip. Let me tuck that right back in there. Up next is the backplate for the pen display. You put this where the connections are to make a nice flush backing to your Pro 24. There's also a bunch of cables, including HDMI, DisplayPort, USB-C, the power adapter and connector, and USB-C to USB-A. There's also the 2 pen holders that go into the top of the pen display. The more solid one is for the thicker pen, and the more squishy one is for the slimmer pen. There's a massive cleaning cloth that comes with it, and an artist glove. There's also a host of extra nibs too. There's the quick start guide to get you started in hooking everything up, and the shortcut remote, which I will call a dongle more times than I want during this, is decent. You can assign different keys to different buttons, and the scroll wheel can be changed with a button in the center of it. I'll have more to talk about during the drawing portion of this, but it's an okay device. Let's flip over to a size and screen comparison. The drawable screen isn't too much bigger, as you can see in the side-by-side, but the surface area is much bigger. This is so you can draw all the way to the edge and not quote-unquote fall off, as someone put it. There's just more real estate for you to rest your arm comfortably when you're drawing, which is a huge win in this area. Now, for a screen comparison. While you'll have to use your own eyes to really see differences, I want to show the difference the best I can between a 1080p and a 4K screen. The Artist 22R is a 1080p screen, and when you're working on it closely, you can see the pixels. It's still an amazing screen, don't get me wrong, but you'll be able to see as I get closer that the pixels are visible. This was a drawing of Storm I did as her Marvel Rivals version a couple months ago. I took a still image as close as I could to really illustrate that you can see the pixels visibly. And now we have the Artist Pro 24 with 4K. It is noticeably different in the way it displays images. First, you can't see the pixels, even when you're really close to the screen. But the second thing is that the screen is nano-etched. What that means is that the image won't look quote-unquote as sharp because the glass itself is helping to diffuse light. It's very noticeable in a bright room that you can still see the screen without having a harsh glare on it. I used to have to turn off the big light when I drew. Now sometimes it's on and I forget. Speaking of which, here's a picture showing that the pixels aren't as apparent as they are on a 1080p screen. But while we're on this image for a second, I wanted to calm your fears. When you get this, you will more than likely freak out because the images look quote-unquote blurry. They're not. That's the nano etching. A byproduct of nano etching is that it diffuses light both ways, meaning that the light coming off the screen will be a little bit blurry. It's something you get used to, but if you're used to something that isn't nano etched, you'll more than likely think something is wrong with your device. Nothing is wrong. No one really talks about this part, but yeah, they did nano etching on these devices, which is a pretty recent thing. And speaking of that, if you're on Mac, I advise you get better display. I'll drop a link to the video I watched that helped me with it, but essentially it will help you clean up some of your display, as well as getting that sweet spot of a high resolution with a smaller overhead on your Mac. I have it here with a drop down of my settings, and I won't go through all of the settings here, but high DPI is a great one to have on. You can also set all kinds of settings in their menus, so I think you should honestly watch that video that I checked out. Helped me a ton. Now, you'll want to install the drivers for your pen display. Once you do, you'll open up the XPPen app where you can control the shortcut remote and the pen display. Toggle between them here. You can add settings for separate apps if you want. I just leave mine to work across everything. You can calibrate the device as well. Just press the little buttons on the screen. There's an option to change the area that your pen can see and control, as well as identifying the devices it's attached to. There's also display settings to change the coloring and temperature. The next tab for the display is the pen, where you can change the pressure to draw and test it in the box below. You can also change the options for each of the buttons on the pen. There's loads here, but I disabled all of mine so I don't accidentally press them and trigger something. You can also see what the pressure sensitivity is by the little graph, as well as change the options for either pen. The last bit is importing and exporting the configuration. So, onto the shortcut remote. In here, you can change the angle of the remote, so how you have it positioned on your desk. You can also click each of these buttons to change them. Really simple and easy. The toggles at the bottom are where you can map separate functions across all buttons and assign a button to toggle between these options. I think you can have 45 or more options if you wanted. I think that would be madness, but some people might like it. And now we move on to the drawing demo portion. I'll be switching between showing the pen display and showing the screen recording from Clip Studio so you can get an idea of what it's like to work on the screen and what the image in the computer looks like. I'll be drawing Lyra Orta, the main character of my webcomic Talia, which you can read on Global Comics and Webtoons. I'm actually drawing her new look, which will show up near the middle to the end of the chapter I'm working on. She's kind of on the run because she was accused of a murder she didn't commit, so obviously she needs to change her look to try to disappear. However, this kind of gives me a chance to talk a little bit about the device and what I do and don't like. This is a flagship product, and the price point completely reflects that, so if you're looking to get something like this, I think you should know everything there is to know about it. Reference for my pose, by the way, is from a Dorka stock, so if you're looking for the best kind of references, please go to a Dorka stock, support them, all that good stuff. Anyway, the first thing that I'll say is that drawing on this feels almost like drawing on an iPad. The iPad, honestly, is still king of being close to a one-to-one pencil-to-paper drawing experience, but dang man, if the Artist Pro 24 isn't close. The screen is laminated, which means that the cursor and the tip of the pen are super close in alignment. And honestly, they might drift apart at the absolute furthest edges of this thing, but I literally can't tell because by the time I'm all the way over there, I'm done with whatever long line I was making anyway. Besides the adjustment it takes to get used to nano etching on a screen, which I honestly don't see it anymore, and I think I stopped seeing it about a week into having this, there are only two other things of note. There's the brightness thing and retention. Hey my squids, jumping in once again to interrupt myself to let you know that everything that I say in this next section is actually wrong. It was part of the defective unit. So the brightness on this thing is way brighter than my MacBook Air screen, way brighter than my iPad screen. It is the brightest screen I've ever seen. It is actually so bright I had to turn it down. It was physically hurting my eyes, and the image retention issue is definitely part of the defective unit because I have not had any image retention issues ever since I got the new one. So if you're seeing any of that when you have yours, definitely reach out to XPPen. They should help you replace it because that is definitely part of any defects. You should not see that normally. So everything that I say is wrong in this next section, but I'm leaving it there so you can be aware of what to look for in case something like this happens to you. Anyway, let's get back to the video. So in regards to brightness, this will not be anywhere near as bright as your laptop. It's not as bright as my MacBook M1 or my iPad. And part of that, I honestly think, has to do with the nano etching. However, once you know what you're looking at and for, it's easy to self-correct things like colors, values, what have you. The other thing to note is screen retention. I tend to have my computer on for long periods of time, so there are times when you can see bright images retained on the screen for a few minutes after you move a window. They don't last long, but I've noticed them more in recent weeks than I did before. The screen doesn't get incredibly hot. It usually heats up in the corners, so I don't think it's a heat issue. And nothing stays on there permanently. I just don't know if long term it will be an issue, and if you have the same UI on screen for days on end, this might be something you want to keep in mind. Now, let's talk about the shortcut remote for a second. Before I talk about some of the issues that have popped up with it recently, and I will compare it to the Artist 22R, I want to talk about the build. They sell this thing separately, so I think it is important to talk about it in case you're someone who might buy one of these separately. The build quality is decent. It's all plastic, but the buttons are super clicky, super responsive. They all feel the exact same except the center one, which has a dot on it. That's kind of an issue when you're trying to quickly go through your options, but I find if I just leave my fingers on certain buttons, I can pretty much press the others within a finger space. It won't stay on the pen display, so you can't put it up there and expect it to stay on the screen. I leave mine on the desk to my left anyways. The wheel. You'll probably notice during this video that there are times when I'm obviously wanting to rotate my screen or zoom in or out, but it looks kind of like it's stuttering. I don't know if the wheel is having trouble keeping up, if there's something in it like dust or debris, or if this is just what happens over time, but I've started to find that I have to rotate the wheel very slowly to get it to do what I need. It's a little annoying when you're in a good flow, but it's not a deal breaker. You can charge it via USB-C. You can also just plug it up to your computer if you want to use it that way. Worth the price to get separately? I would probably try to find something else if you can. Their engineering in other areas is top notch, but the shortcut remote isn't as high quality as I'd like. The buttons on the Artist 22R are much better and way more solid, and the wheels are super high quality. One more thing to note about drawing is that when they do finally get their pen display arm out, the one that they keep teasing, this thing will be a prime candidate for mounting. It takes up so much desk real estate, but it is perfect for mounting and moving out of the way if you have other things you want to do on your desk when you're not working. Every bit of this thing is usable, and I'd love to have a standing desk with a mounted arm to really get producing some classic drawings and fun comic panels. Now, outside of drawing, I have used this for gaming too. You can plug in headphones into the back of the monitor and hear what you're playing, but honestly, I would plug up speakers. You can change the volume on because it will blast everything at the highest possible decibel available. I literally almost went deaf one night because I tried that. Do not. I didn't notice anything crazy while I was playing, like screen tearing or anything, but if you're looking for every bell and whistle that you'll find on something else, you will not find it here. All of that was reserved for the fact that you can draw on this thing. Outside of that, images were crisp, the colors, great. And it was honestly easy on the eyes. I played Marvel Rivals, Overwatch, and I put a little bit of Clair Obscur Expedition 33 on because, of course, I'm an RPG fan. That was my game of the year and my most anticipated game for the last year. So, of course, I had to try it. Everything looked gorgeous. With all that said, I'm going to let you guys enjoy the rest of the drawing and the music, and I will be back with my final thoughts afterwards.
right, my squids. Last interruption, I promised, before my closing remarks. Kind of wanted to talk to you guys about XPPen's customer service and the return policy for this tablet. Like I said, when I bought the tablet, it was a defective unit. It did start showing some of the ghosting and the image retention a couple months in, but the brightness issue was from day one. It was not as bright as my screen, my MacBook Air screen or my iPad screen from day one, and that was something that I noticed immediately. But it wasn't until I kind of contacted XPPen to figure out what was going on months later that I realized, oh, I have a defective unit. So going through that process was super seamless. They are probably one of the best experiences that I've had in having to return something and get a new version of it. I essentially sent them an email and they walked through the troubleshooting aspects, trying to figure out, make sure that it was plugged up correctly, how did the screen look, so on and so forth. And then after we went through that, they were like, yeah, you have a defective unit. We're gonna get you over to the sales team. And then the sales team, it was a seamless process. They got my information. They were able to look up to see where I had purchased this from, which was their store on Amazon. And then we were able to get the shipping label. I shipped it out. Everything was in the box. I still had all of the boxes and everything from when I previously purchased it. So I was able to ship that out. And then the new tablet came in within about 24 hours. I don't even think that my tablet had gone out yet. It was essentially when they printed the shipping label. So it was a seamless experience. When I got the new tablet, I plugged it up, turned it on, and that's when I immediately realized, oh yeah, I had a defective unit, because the brightness, like I said, was way brighter than any other screen that I own. It was actually too bright. I had to turn it down. So it's still at 70% brightness right now. But it was essentially hurting my eyeballs. That's how bright it was. But that's when I realized everything, from the previous unit had been defective. There were some things that weren't defective, of course, like the nanotech etching on the screen itself. That's still something that is across all of the units, because that's the actual glass on the screens themselves. And then the image retention, there has not been any image retention, and I've been working on comic book pages every single day ever since I got this, and I've had this for 2 months now, and there's still no image retention on the screen. So that is something that I can thoroughly say was part of the defective unit. And like I said, the brightness was also part of the defective unit. In the next part, when I do my closing, there is an argument of whether this is worth the price. I'm going to leave what I said originally in, but I will say that now I do think that this is worth the price, now that I see that I had a defective unit. If it had been if all units were like the previous one, maybe not, but this one is definitely, because the brightness definitely makes everything come out. The colors pop a lot more, but also it not having that image retention issue means that you can spend a lot more time working on your projects and feeling that this will be something that you'll be using 10, 15 years from now. So with all that said, XPPen's customer service was brilliant. I loved it. I would definitely recommend, if you have any issues with an XPPen product, contact them, because they will definitely help you through it, whether it's troubleshooting or whether they can replace it. So I would definitely reach out to them on that aspect. But with all that said, let's get into my original closing, even though it's going to have some stuff that is not correct any longer, but you now know that, you know what to look for. And I hope that this helps you out regardless. So let's get over to that original closing. And with that, we conclude the review. So like I said, there might be some small things that kind of rub you the wrong way when you first get it, but a lot of the good things are going to outweigh any of the minor things that kind of creep up. If you are somebody who uses a keyboard or the TorBox or another dongle type thing that you use to control anything in your programs, continue using those. It's just nice that they included the dongle in this package. It might not be the greatest addition, but the fact that I can go from the Artist 22R Pro with the buttons on the side to this and then kind of incorporate some keyboard shortcuts really has helped me speed up my workflow from when I first unboxed this thing and started playing with it. Do I think that this is worth the price that you pay at the onset and the price that they're asking? I would say if it was dropped maybe another $100, which we typically do see because they do a lot of deals, this is the perfect price point. One of the things that I've noticed is that this is a decade of tech that you're gonna own. You're not gonna purchase this thing and then a couple years down the road look at something and be like, well, I need that one. This is something that you're going to have for a decade or more. It is that solid. It is their flagship. It is absolutely gorgeous. I love working on this thing, and there is not anything that, at least with the screen and the attachments, that I feel needs to be changed. The pens are just, they're the best in the business, honestly. XPPen has nailed whatever technology they have. It feels very much like having an Apple Pencil without Apple Pencil charging kind of specs or needing batteries or anything like that. So it does feel very much like that. I do enjoy using their pens essentially over a lot of other pens. When it comes down to it though, should you get it? And I only say should you get it if you are intermediate to advanced artist. I don't think that you need this as a beginner artist who's really trying to just figure out how to draw and what to do when you draw. I think if you're intermediate, so you're somebody who's producing artwork regularly, like multiple times a week or a month, if you're selling anything, you're doing a lot of convention stuff, this will allow you to have a lot of real estate on your screen. If you're, especially if you're working on film, or if you're working on big comic books or something for, you know, video games or something like that, this is going to be a perfect addition to what your tool set is. It will give you a lot of real estate. You'll be able to actually lock in and get work done without any of the distractions outside of, you know, your program, essentially. I just use the two screens. I have the MacBook screen up above me, and then I have the pen display right below me that I'm, you know, working on. And I think, honestly, this is something that if you are at that point where you're earning some money with your art, this is a good purchase for you. Otherwise, I would say go for something smaller, something cheaper. This is definitely the, I'm a professional artist, or I'm close to a professional artist, and I do this at that level kind of purchase. I don't think this is a beginner's pen display. Even if I said, hey, you'll be using this thing for a decade, I don't think as a beginner this is something that you should be concentrated on. But with all that said, I do think that this is a dang good purchase. I really think that if you were able to get this, I would get it. I haven't had, besides what I've listed out in this review, I've had no qualms about having this. I love sitting down to draw. And honestly, I don't know if other people are the same way I am. Whenever I get a new piece of gear, regardless of what it is, it could be a new pencil, it could be a new pen, you know, new like Sharpie, new pad, notepad, sketch pad, anything like that. Whatever is new, I feel like my art elevates itself. It gives you kind of that confidence. So something like this has given me a little bit more confidence in doing my art and some of the experimentation that I like to do with rendering and things like that. This has definitely helped me nail some of that down and feel a little bit better about that. So do I think that you should get it? If you are intermediate to professional, yes. If you are a beginner artist and just a hobbyist who doesn't sit down every day with your pen display or even your tablet or your sketch pad, I don't think this is the purchase for you. I think you should eyeball it if that's somewhere you want to go, but I think you should hold off on doing this purchase and you should get it somewhere down the line. With all that said, I really thank you guys for watching this review. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. Leave me a comment too. Let me know what you think of this review. Let me know what you think of the pen display if you guys have gotten it, or if you've seen it in person, or if you're thinking about checking it out. And let me know what you think about any of my other reviews that are on this channel. I have more coming, so look forward to those. You can also find me on Blue Sky, which is just the prize-winning squid on Blue Sky. I'm also on Discord, the prize-winning squid, and I post on my website, artbytheprizewinningsquid.com. I post on WEBCOMIC, and I post on Webtoon. My webcomic is called Talia, and you guys can find it there. It is about Layra Orta, who I showed you. I was drawing her here, her new look, but it's about Layra Orta being on the run for murder, and she didn't commit it. She is what is known as an elemental, so she can control magic and the elements and everything. And there are a group of Blades of Oa, who are assassins who are good at capturing and subduing elementals, so they are after her. And she's accused of this crime that she did not do, and she's a zoologist. So anyway, enough of that. You guys have a great day. I hope to see you back soon. And I'm out of here for now. Your favorite cephalopod, the prize-winning squid. Take care.